YouTube, it's your boy JP's on the keys, and it's too easy on the video today. We got another banger for you today. World War I epic history 1917. After this, we got one more year of World War I. And I was looking on the channel, man. They got some bangers, bro. They got the Napoleonic Wars, what we're already doing. I already started that. The history of Russia, Alexander the Great, the Holy Crusades, Blackbeard the pirate. I mean, hey, we got bangers. You got mad bangers. You know what I'm saying? Like, welcome to class. School is in session. You know what I'm saying? This is the quarantine history lesson. This is quarantine history, baby. You know what I'm saying? We don't got nothing else to do but sit here and increase our brain power. You know what I'm saying? Because you could be watching something you could be watching some ignorant stuff, or you could be watching something that increases your knowledge. Without further ado, World War I, 1917, nearing the end of the First World War. As you know, Germany surrenders, Treaty of Versailles. Then Germany is mad, and then another dude comes up and tries to bring Germany to power again. You know the story.
In 1916, World War I became a war of attrition. Both sides began to focus less on winning victory on the battlefield than grinding down the enemy and inflicting such enormous losses they would be forced to surrender. In 1917, the strategy will push Europe's major powers to the brink of collapse. Germany knows it will lose a long war of attrition against the Allies, who have greater resources. So its leaders gamble. They resume unrestricted submarine warfare, believing their U-boats can cut off Britain's food imports by sea and starve the country into surrender within 6 months. But the new shoot-on-sight tactics mean neutral American ships will inevitably be caught in the crossfire, risking America joining the war on the Allied side. Just 2 days into the campaign, the SS Housatonic, an American steamer carrying wheat from Galveston, Texas to England, is sunk by a U-boat. The British then pass to the US government a telegram they've intercepted from German Foreign Secretary Arthur Zimmermann to the German ambassador in Mexico. Germany is encouraging Mexico to attack America if America and Germany end up at war. The so-called Zimmermann telegram puts yet more pressure on US President Wilson to declare war on Germany.
Just think about that, though. Just think about that. Like, think about Mexico even going to war with. I can't even fathom that as a possibility. Like, I just never, like, it's just something I can never like, the Mexicans are just gonna rally up a whole bunch of troops and just go across the border and just start taking over cities in Texas and in Arizona and Louisiana. Like, I can't imagine that. Like, that's like saying, oh, the Canadians have invaded New York City. Like this, man. That just like you got to really imagine if that really had came through. Like, that's wow. Like, history is definitely, man. History is like one. It's almost like one decision that changes the whole course of history for the entire world. Like, one decision.
In Russia, enormous casualties and bread shortages lead to riots and revolution. The Tsar abdicates. A provisional government takes charge, pledging to continue the war. But at the front, Russian troops begin to desert en masse. After a string of German provocations, the US finally declares war on Germany. It brings immense resources to the Allied cause, but they will take many months to mobilize. And the German gamble of unrestricted submarine warfare may still pay off.
Of course, the America was going to drag your feet. Duh. If they waited 3 years almost 3 years to join the war, then why would they just rush? Like, oh, we've had all this time, let's just rush in action. Like, I wouldn't rush either.
April is the U-boat's most successful month of the war. They sink 886,000 tons of Allied shipping, an average of 17 ships a day, all packed with urgently needed food and supplies. Britain will face starvation if the U-boats are not defeated soon. On the Western Front, the British launched the Battle of Arras, a diversion to support a major upcoming French offensive. After heavy fighting, Canadian troops seized the high ground of Vimy Ridge. It's a limited Allied victory, but costs 150,000 Allied casualties to 130,000 German. Above the trenches, the First Air War has reached new levels of sophistication and deadliness. Reconnaissance aircraft are crucial for spotting enemy positions and directing artillery fire onto them. Scout aircraft or fighters try to shoot them down before they can execute their mission. New models of aircraft are developed every few months, but that spring, the superiority of German aircraft leads to heavy Allied losses in what becomes known as Bloody April.
Crazy, like land, air, and sea, like all facets are at war.
3 days after the fall of Vimy Ridge, French General Robert Nivelle launches his main offensive. Expectations are high, but after initial success, the advance bogs down and casualties quickly mount on both sides. The apparently senseless losses cause morale in the French army to collapse. Whole units mutiny, refusing to attack. General Nivelle is sacked as French commander-in-chief and replaced by General Pétain, hero of Verdun, who promises no more suicidal attacks. That summer, at Messines Ridge, the British tunnel under the German lines and detonate 19 enormous mines under the enemy position. It's the largest man-made explosion in history to date and paves the way to a brilliant but highly local British victory.
Yo, look how deep that crater is. That's like that's like, it has to be like 300 or 400 feet. How deep that crater is. Wow. You see how small the people are inside that? That has to be at least 200 or 300 feet deep.
Victory. In Greece, King Constantine, who has favored neutrality, is forced to abdicate, and Greece joins the Allies. Russia's provisional government orders a new attack, but the July offensive is a disaster. The morale and discipline of the Russian army has collapsed. It can no longer be relied on to fight, and the Central Powers' counterattack is almost unopposed.
Gave up. That's crazy.
At sea, the Allies begin to group their merchant ships into convoys, which sail under naval escort. The new system leads to a steady fall in losses. The tide is turning in the U-boat war. As discontent with the war grows in Germany, the German parliament, the Reichstag, passes a peace resolution, calling for a peace of understanding and reconciliation. It's ignored by the German High Command, which now effectively rules the country as a military dictatorship.
Wow. Wow. The government said, hell no, we ain't doing that. He said, we fighting, we finishing this. Oh my goodness, that's, I feel bad for the German citizens. My goodness. Like, you've been fighting a war for 3 years. Just been casualties upon casualties upon casualties. And the high government says, can we please end the war? Government's like, no, we're going to finish this war and we're going to win. Like, bro, you've already lost millions and millions of people. Like, why lose millions more? Why? At this point, just give up and take what's coming to you. Pause.
In Belgium, the British launched their major offensive of 1917, the Third Battle of Ypres. It will be remembered as Passchendaele. Heavy shelling, rain and broken irrigation channels turned the battlefield into a sea of mud. In these impossible conditions, all hopes of a breakthrough soon fade. The attack is called off after 3 months, by which point the British have suffered 240,000 casualties, the Germans 200,000. On the Italian front, at the 11th Battle of the Isonzo, Italian and Austro-Hungarian forces batter each other into exhaustion. There are 150,000 Italian casualties, 100,000 Austro-Hungarian. That year, 1917, the list of Allied nations grows. Brazil, Liberia, China, and Siam all declare war on Germany as a result of German U-boat attacks.
Siam? I've never heard of that country, Siam. Never heard of that. It looks like it's close to Indonesia, and like Indonesia and like close to the end of like India and like Vietnam. Like, I've never heard of Siam. Okay, I gotta look up that country. I've never heard of Siam.
Or to curry favor with the Allies. China will contribute many thousands of laborers working for the Allies in Europe, the Middle East, and Asia. That year in the Middle East, British forces avenged their 1916 humiliation at Kut by defeating the Ottoman Turks and marching on to occupy Baghdad. British forces in Egypt advance across the Sinai Desert, but are thrown back by Ottoman forces at the First and Second Battles of Gaza. In July, Arab rebels capture the strategic Ottoman port of Aqaba. They are accompanied by a British military advisor, Captain T.E. Lawrence, better known as Lawrence of Arabia. That autumn, British Foreign Secretary Arthur Balfour issues the Balfour Declaration, expressing support for the creation of a national home for the Jews in Palestine.
His Majesty's government view with favor the establishment in Palestine of a national home for the Jewish people, it being clearly understood that nothing shall be done which may prejudice the civil and religious rights of existing non-Jewish communities in Palestine. So I guess he's trying to move, I guess he wants to move the Jews over to there so they won't be persecuted. Sadly, that does not work, because about 25, 30 years later, you know what I'm saying? It's just sad though how people the lengths people will go to fill out their sick fantasies, you know? It's terrible.
The aim is to rally Jewish support for the Allies. but the declaration contradicts existing pledges to Arab leaders. In October, the British finally win at Gaza, clearing the way for an advance into Palestine. 6 weeks later, General Allenby leads British troops into Jerusalem, ending 400 years of Ottoman rule. With Russian forces in disarray, Germany is able to move troops from the east to the Italian front. At the Battle of Caporetto, they helped to smash through the Italian army, advancing 70 miles and taking 250,000 prisoners. British and French divisions, desperately needed on the Western Front, have to be redeployed to shore up the line. In Russia, a second revolution brings Lenin's Bolshevik party to power. He is determined to end Russia's involvement in the war. In France, Georges Clemenceau becomes prime minister. Nicknamed the Tiger, he promises total war and total victory. But for the Allies in late 1917, final victory looks uncertain. Russia has stopped fighting. French armies are recovering from mutiny. The Italian front has almost collapsed. And American reinforcements still seem a long way off.
Of course.
For the time being, the British are the only effective Allied force in the field. So the British attack at Cambrai with the first major tank assault in history. On the first day, nearly 400 tanks spearhead an advance of several miles through German defenses.
Speaking of tanks, I don't know if any of you have heard of a show. It was on the military channel. It was called The World's Greatest Tank Battles. Like, I don't know why. I love that show. Like that channel, they like removed that channel from TV because I remember used to like the Sherman tanks, and then you have like the huge, like just the CGI pictures of the tanks battling. Like it was mad. Like it was just really interesting to watch. But I don't know where that went. I probably can look it up on YouTube. But that's just something I want to add in.
But then the tanks break down or are knocked out. The Germans rush in reinforcements, and the gains are lost. Finland declares independence from Russia. Romania, isolated by the Russian collapse, signs an armistice with the Central Powers. 6 days later, Russia also signs an armistice. The Allied Eastern Front is no more. 1917 has seen one major Allied power, Russia, knocked out of the war. But the arrival of a fresh new ally, America. Germany knows only military victory can now save it from being overwhelmed by Allied resources, and begins planning one last massive onslaught for the spring of 1918.
So America didn't even join until the tail end. You know what I'm saying? They just waited that whole thing out. I mean, that for real was a smart strategy, so you can like reduce the amount of casualties. You know, that was a smart strategy, so you don't lose millions and millions of men. But it's crazy. Russia, they knocked Russia out of the war entirely. Like the troops just said, "Freak it," and we just leaving. I'm just running away. I don't want to do this anymore. Like, just imagine that. Like you just run away. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, where can you go? Because like you basically have to hide yourself now. Because now that you're a deserter, they probably could kill you for that. If they know you deserted the war, they can kill you for that. I'm pretty sure they can either kill you or throw you in jail. for like treason, and like especially in a lot of other countries, like treason is like a capital offense, like death penalty treason. Definitely, you know what I'm saying? Let's get ready for that last year of the war, 1918. Anyway, thank you again for watching. Leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you are new to the channel. Don't forget to share the video wherever you share videos at. Check out the gaming channel, of course. Don't forget to turn on my post notifications. Don't forget to share my videos wherever you share videos at. Anyways, thank you. Please stay safe. Please stay safe during the quarantine. Have a great day. I'm out. Peace.